So, good morning or good afternoon to everyone. We are 2 minutes past the hour, and I think we're going to get started. Our numbers seem to have stabilized, so let's get right into it. So, I'd like to welcome you all here today to our webinar, where we're going to see if your EV charging network is under cyber attack. Are you ready for it? Let's see what it's all about. So, with 17 million EVs sold last year alone, the threat landscape is it's rapidly evolving. Each of those vehicles is a connected device on wheels. It's a point of vulnerability for cyber attacks. Now, cybersecurity for the EV ecosystem is a lot more than just preventing hacks into your backend system. It's about securing an interconnected ecosystem of charging points, EVs, APIs, fleets, and all those things are connected. And at the end of the day, they connect up to charging points which are on our utility grid. Now, there are many ways that bad actors can intervene and disrupt all of this activity. We've seen Russian EV, a hack on a Russian EV charging network displaying political messages, and in other locations displaying inappropriate content, pornographic content, and things like that. There's personal information theft. EV driver data was stolen from a large North American EV network. You can have denial of service attacks, anything from shutting down a single charger to a charging site to even a whole region network of chargers. There are fraud issues. Techniques like duplicating RFIDs are getting more and more common, so people are managing to charge at someone else's expense. And if malware gets passed to electric vehicles, then those vehicles could pass them on to others through chargers. And again, those chargers are connected to the grid, our critical infrastructure. So we really need to pay attention to these things. And awareness of cyber risks in EV networks is growing. And these examples are just the tip of the iceberg. But I don't want to steal the show here, and I'd like to introduce you to our lineup today. We're going to start off with Shachar, Driivz VP of BizOps and pre-sale. He'll be giving an overview of some of the many different ways that bad actors can disrupt services, charge for free, steal sensitive data, and things like that. And he'll talk about some of the regulations and standards in place to help prevent those things from happening. Next up will be Yossi, our CTO, who's going to get into some of the bits and bytes and provide some practical tips of security best practices. These are tips that you can go and implement today to help you comply with those standards and even go beyond to protect your networks. And as for myself, I'll just be here in the background managing the mechanics of today's webinar. And before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. Your mics are muted and cameras are off, but we will be happy to get your reactions during the presentations. There should be some time for questions in the Q&A section at the end of the webinar. And finally, we will be popping up some questions for you during the webinar to answer. So please stay sharp. We're looking forward to that. And with that, I'm happy to hand over to you, Shachar. Shachar, you can go ahead and share your screen and take it away.
Yeah, hi everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good. Just display it. Yes. Okay, now I think we are all set. So good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Since we have a participant from around the globe, so thank you for joining this important webinar. As you know, that this is a valuable opportunity to share insight into the EV charging network security challenges and how to mitigate them, how to address them. Based on the feedback we got from the market, from our current customers and future customers, we see that also in the RFPs, okay, so about 20% of the questions are related to cybersecurity issues or topics. So this issue is become, a massive and important topic in the EV charging ecosystem, if talking about the CPMS part, on the charger, on the billing, on every component. And we are here to discuss how to better protect your EV charging network and how to ensure that it's protected. And cybersecurity is not longer optional, it's essential. It's impacting not just the uptime, but also your trust, safety, reputation, and privacy. So let's move on to the agenda. And today, I will cover the main risks and attacks of the EV charging ecosystem. We go through the standard and regulation, which come to help us to better protect the network, protecting the EV chargers network. So we go over, I will take you through the real use cases, security risk, and how to also provide a solution, mitigations, and outlined best practices to enhance your network protection. What we can see here that protecting your network should start with understanding the ecosystem. Okay, the supply chain, the potential weak points, and other components. Here you can see that the attack vectors are multiple vectors. For example, telematics is one vector, some of telematics equipment in the car. If somebody control it, it can attack the network. APIs, all over the places. We have APIs to different systems. So we must protect those components. OTA, over the air. If you update the firmware to the charger, how do you know that this firmware doesn't include malfunction or vulnerability? Okay, charging protocol. We know well the OCPP, OCPI, and others. So we also need to take care for those protocols and understand what is going on internally and what are the relevant risks. Of course, connected devices, connected vehicles. Each vehicle now is coming with 5, 6 SIM cards. So different networks, different VPNs. So many doors, let's say, and we must ensure that all the doors are really secured. Charging station, we will discuss about the charging station itself, and of course, mobile app and CPO. So those are the vectors. Here you can see a real picture of a very interesting part. It's recently I visited the new advanced cybersecurity lab. So their goal is to identify vulnerabilities in the EV. They're working with major EV manufacturers like BMW, Hyundai, others, and they test real cars. So what you can see here, they are taking the real car, dismantle the relevant equipment, and then assemble it in this table, let's say. So you see the wheel, you see the mirror, you see the gear, you see the main computer, and then they are running penetration test in real time. And I was witnessed them controlling the car, the wheel, and the engine, and it is, let's say, emphasizing the critical need to protect, in this case, the car. So tomorrow, if you want to kill someone, you don't need a gun anymore, right? So it's a different scenario to do it. So CPOs are exposed to wide-scale cyber threat, and I will take 3 of them. The main one, wide-scale attack. So somebody is penetrate to the backend server, and then from the backend server of the CPMS, it can have a widespread attack to different chargers or to take down the VPN tunnel. So think about taking down the VPN. So multiple sites are going down. The other one is a regional power outage. And here I will explain. Think about somebody going into the CPMS platform, and then from the CPMS, he can control the energy profile of the charger. Okay, so he can play with the energy profile for one site, multiple sites, and he can, let's say, this is major for the regulation, especially because regulation is taking care for the grid and stability, and the The risk here is oscillation of the grid, oscillation of the power. And then if you oscillate the power in multiple sites, it can cause a major downtime of the grid. Okay, so this is very, let's say, we heard about from a lot of regulation worldwide that this is a major fear of the oscillation of the power grid. The next one is related to data privacy. As you know, since we are handling PII information, personal information, drivers, operators, and other PII, so we must keep this data safe, encrypted, and secured. We learned there was a major cyber attack in North America in one of the big CPMS providers, not Driivz, but others. And there was a malicious actor accessing private consumer data, a big database of hundreds of thousands of drivers, and it took the data. And then, when you take the private data, so you are exposed, it's a legal issue also, it's a reputation issue. So of course, we all want to avoid it, right? So this is another use case to why we need to protect the data of our assets and customers. Next, let's see another point of view of the attack vector. So first is the V2G, from the vehicle to the grid. Think about malicious or vulnerability in the car. And from the car, it's going to the charger, okay? Because, in the AC and DC charger, is open communication between the charger to the car. And then it can affect the network, the CPMS, other devices. So this is from the car to the grid. The opposite direction is from the grid to the vehicle. For example, if I have a malicious firmware, and then I can populate it to multiple charger, and from the charger, this malicious can go to the car, and then it can cause the car, the EVCC or the ECU of the car, to be not effective anymore. Okay, so this is another use case. Another use case is grid to fleet. So this is not grid to a single vehicle, but a multiple vehicle. So if I have a system that manages multi-site of fleets, okay, there are huge fleets worldwide. So once you access the system to the fleet, you can have a damage to multiple cars in this fleet area. CPMS attack. Another, I can go to the CPMS, for example. I can impact the billing, the CDRs, okay? I can send the CDRs to be zero. So it goes in free of charge, right? So nobody will pay for the transaction, or to do the opposite. So a lot of use cases in the CPMS area. OCPP attack, bad OCPP command, for example, or there are several, options in this area, okay? And we know about some companies who are, dealing with the OCPP security, like SafeFlow, like others. So there's also solutions for this area. As for vehicle to grid, I must share with you an early story, okay? So we had a customer using the auto charge. Auto charge meaning that the authorization is based on the MAC address of the car, right? And then one of the driver got a huge billing invoice of 10,000 euro. And he say, hey, come on, how come I have a monthly invoice of 10,000 euro? And then we investigated and found out that the MAC address of the car was multiple to other cars. So it was a OEM, one of the OEM, I will not mention the name, but a car manufacturer, that all the cars has the same MAC address. So the auto charge, okay, use the MAC address, and this is the reason why this poor driver got the multiple, was the invoice for the multiple transaction from other cars. So if auto charge, we need to be very careful and make sure that there is a unique MAC address per each car. API attacks, I can explain on it in the next slides. So here I want to share with you on the next two slides some real use cases and then how to have a real mitigation and a solution for it. So the first one, driver identity is stolen, okay? For example, my credential is in my computer, in my phone, and think about phishing attack to one of your employees or drivers, and then somebody get the notification and the username, password, credit card number, and then he can sell it in the darknet, right? So here the mitigation is to monitor the darknet. There is some companies that you can work with, like RedRock, and they are scanning. You provide them the list of your employees and drivers and any other information that you can provide them, and they scan it in the darknet. Once they realize that there is, your user is exposed, it's immediate alert to you, and then we can block this user in our CPMS platform. Another use case is the RFID. All of us are using the RFID, right? This is the RFID. I can go to the charger, put the RFID, charge my car. What happens if somebody during the night, okay, and this is RFID duplicator. I bought it for less than $10 in AliExpress, and somebody can hide this RFID reader in the charger, and then you come to charge. Your RFID is recorded, and then the hacker is duplicating your RFID, and he can use your RFID free of charge to charge a car. Okay, so here our suggestion is to monitor abnormal energy consumptions. For example, if you know the average consumptions per driver is about 200 kilowatt monthly, you want to get alerts automatically and even block future charging. And we have the way, Driivz have the way, thanks to the AMS alert management system, we have the way how to monitor abnormal consumptions and to also send alert or even block it. The other use case is QR code. As you know, it's very popular, QR code. CPOs put the QR code on the charger. But what happens if I'm coming at night and put my QR code, a different QR code, okay? And this QR code is direct to my private driver portal, okay? Let's say this is just illustration, okay? But this is, let's say, future EV. And this is a fake driver portal. The original driver portal with redundant E, future EV charging. This is the fake one without the double E, the single E, okay? It looks the same portal as the CPO. I'm a driver, I have no clue. And then I click my name, username, credit card, and then what? All the information transferred to the hacker. Okay, so this is very unique. So here the solution is first awareness, monitor such event, advertise your user drivers to use RFID or the mobile app, not necessarily the QR code. Okay, so those are the risk and mitigations. Okay, so next is the simultaneous EV charging of multiple locations. So think about somebody stealing your RFID, and now he's duplicating it and selling it in the market. And now think the same RFID used in multiple sites. Okay, 1 hour, it can consume a lot of energy for multiple cars. So the solution here is to prevent simultaneous charging in the CPMS and monitor abnormal usage, energy consumption. So also this is, thanks to the AMS, we have this feature embedded in our platform, and you can avoid simultaneous charging of the same RFID. You can define, okay, each RFID can charge 2-3 times a day, not more, for example. you can limit the consume energy and more and more. Get diagnostic command. You all know the OCPP, and there is an option to get diagnostic, meaning getting the information from the charger. Okay, so I can click on the get diagnostic, get the information from the charger. And recently we found out the charger that provide the Wi-Fi password. Okay, so it's a vulnerability because the personal Wi-Fi password of the home charger or workplace charger should not be exposed, right? So again, the recommendation here is to have a penetration test to the charger. Please investigate. If you buy a charger, please make sure who is standing behind the charger, what is the tested that already done, penetration test report, and so on. Okay, please test the charger, also the get diagnostic before you start to work with such a charger. Another use case, it's open the door, okay? So, the charger, AC and DC, mostly the DC, are protected by the door. And we learned that somebody come over the night, open the door, connect US cable to the computer, or make other vulnerability in the charger, which is a risk, right? So apparently there is error code in most of the charger manufacturer. There is error code from the charger. So once the door is open, error code is sent via the OCPP to our CPMS, and then we can set up alert to your operation center saying, okay, the door is open is in this specific location, and then you can take care, you can, stop charging, send the team there, or send the police or whatever. So there is a automation here to identify issues and to solve those issues. Let's move ahead to standard regulation. So I know sometimes it's a headache, right? Standard regulation, we need to stand behind and do some, exercise. And I learned that all the standard regulations, most of them came to help us to better understand the risk and to protect. So we have the NIS directive, which come from the EU Commission. They say, I think it's valid from October 2024, saying that it's a specific rules and of identify and block and report about cyber risk and cyber events, for example. So NIS2 is a must, and of course, Driivz is standing behind all those regulation and the standards. OCPP, it's our bread and butter. So in the OCPP, you have the 3 different security profile. So we need to work according to the OCPP. By the way, the OCA also recommend to read the OCA white paper. There is a very nice white paper about security, cybersecurity, how to secure the EV charger itself, how to secure the network. Very useful information there. ISO 15118, of course, the plug-in charge, which is very secured with a certificate. And the Eichrecht is a standard in Germany. It's a calibration law. It's coming to make sure that the driver is aware to exactly to the consumed power according to the metering. Next is the CTEP and NTEP, which is very, very similar to what we have in Eichrecht, okay? But this is in North America. So recently, during the last 6 months, in North America, we are working fully comply with the CTEP and NTEP, which is coming to a metering certification program to ensure charger meets recognized standards for accuracy. The next is SOC 1, SOC 2. SOC 1 and SOC 2, I think it's a must for any service company which is provide a SaaS platform or any other platform. Okay, and this is why Driivz took it seriously, and for the last couple of years we are comply with SOC 1, SOC 2, and it's not a compliance, it's a ongoing basis work. We have annual audits, okay, by PwC, EY, such big giant companies that having audit, comprehensive audit and reports. So we have the SOC 1, SOC 2 report. SOC 2 mainly help with the Navy funds in North America, but not just Navy, but more than that. So it's very recommended to move to this direction and having the SOC 1 and SOC 2. And if you have a vendor, if you check your supply chain, okay, so one of the assessment is to make sure that they have the SOC 1 and SOC 2 reports. Next is data protection. Data protection is very essential, okay, in order to make sure that we really treat the data, especially the PII information, seriously. So we have the GDPR in Europe, we have the CPRA in North America. There is other specific countries that have specific requirement. And in Japan, I think it's the most demanded process, since we have major customers in Japan. So we implemented the APPI, and again, it's annual audit by a Japanese law firm about all the bits and bytes and processes in the CPMS system. Last slide is about, let's summarize, okay? So why information security is so important? So our solution at Driivz includes proactive security monitoring, compliance with global cybersecurity standard, and robust encryption and authentication protocol to safeguard your network. We really, as any other big vendor, we really take seriously the cybersecurity. We want to make sure that our customers and the customers of our customers are secured. Okay, this is why we invest a lot of resources, money, processes on data protection. So we have a proactive monitoring, a SOC, Service Security Operations Center, 24/7 monitoring the network and the endpoint. We have the compliance team here. We invest in resources. We have our CISO, Amit, is on the call, the Chief Information Security Officer, but many, many others. It's a team effort, comprehensive access control. It's very recommended to use multi-level of user authentication like MFA, multi-factor authentication, or SSO, single sign-on, or any other technique to safeguard the access using roles and permissions, okay? Because if you need admin, make sure that you have maximum 5 admins in your system and not more than that. And there are other several roles and permissions in order to have a better control of the access to the system. Encryption is a must, secured API is a must, and of course, audits, okay, to make sure external audit, internal audit, to make sure that we are safe enough. So in summary, I must say the Driivz comprehensive security solution reduces cyber risk, protects sensitive data, and builds customer trust, ensuring a secured and reliable EV charging network. So in God we trust, the rest we need to monitor. Thank you very much. Rami?
Yep, here I am.
Yeah.
Here I am, wait. Okay, here I am now. Great, thank you, Shachar. And I really hope that you can all stay for the second half of our webinar today. Yossi is going to give you some really practical tips that you can go in and implement tomorrow about your network topology, about how you manage communications and using security profiles. So don't go away. Yossi, the stage is yours.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for staying. Security can be tedious, but you can't live without security. So let me share my screen here. Where is my presentation? Yes. You should be seeing everything in full screen mode right now. So
Yes.
as Rami said, I will be walking through some practical tips and explaining a little bit more about inner workings of the network and OCPP specific stuff, and also networking stuff that is of interest for security. So again, a quick recap, why are we here? We're here because we want to improve the security of our networks. We all know why. It's relevant for both. If you're only a CPO, it is still relevant for you. If you're only an EMSP, it is also relevant for you. We basically need to take more measures. The number one problem is awareness, okay? And we'll get to it in a minute. So we're going to cover really quick Driivz history and get into the problem, understand the problem, talk about some recommendations for networking, how to limit communications, how to utilize the advanced security profiles and what they are, and also to talk about general best practices that we've picked up. Okay, so we've been an OCPP veteran since day one. Practically, if you go on the OCA site, you can see our cool license number is 0001 for both 1.6 and 2.0. I'm telling you this because it meant that we had to be there for security from day one, implement the advanced protocols, and making sure that they are useful and that they can be implemented. And we've done that for many years now. And still, you see that security awareness is not high as it should be, and the market is not adopting this as fast as it should, because EV charging is booming, and when you have more vehicles, more people interested, more money flowing, that's the time where the hackers get going. So what is our problem? Basically, our problem is that OCPP 1.6 and even 2.0 stem from the origins of OCPP 1.2 and 1.5, and these have defaults which are basically insecure. Let's get back to the problem statement. As I said, the problem is that the defaults are just not good and they're insecure. OCPP and Origin did not even have advanced security profiles. They didn't think about security profiles. In the old days, all we cared about was getting your charger to work and getting energy to the customer. But nowadays, we have to focus on security. So the number one thing I would say would be awareness, which corresponds to the biggest problem about the resources, which we will get to in a minute. So you need to be aware that security is on your top list, okay? Firmware, not all chargers out there are 1.6. Not all of them can even support the advanced profiles. You know, some vendors, I mean, nowadays the situation is much better than a few years ago, but still there's a multitude of support factors, and there are a lot of differences between the chargers, which means that, you know, one weak link is enough to kill the chain, right? So that's another important aspect. And another one that many networks fall on is the fact that they say, okay, I have an APN, I have a VPN, now I'm secured. No, that's not enough for various reasons, and I will talk about them a little later, okay? That's a misconception. You're not secure just because you have a private channel between you and your chargers, okay? Once you understand all this, it means that you need to put a focus on security and you need to allocate resources to take care of this. It means that you need to take some time and improve the configuration of the chargers, do some testing, making sure you don't have defaults, all sorts of things I will talk about. But it does need investment to make sure that you are secured. So let's start diving into some tips. First of all, about network topology. So number one thing would be to try and avoid public internet. Some networks use public internet for various reasons. Sometimes because it's cheaper, sometimes because there's no choice, sometimes because of history, all sorts of things. So first of all, you do want to have an APN and a VPN for a secured connection, it automatically limits the attack vector, because otherwise, if you are on the public internet, any guy from anywhere in the world can potentially identify your charger, and if there is one vulnerability there, they will find a way to exploit it, and we've seen that. We've seen, again, some of our customers on their chargers had issues and on some equipment around it. We'll talk about it later. And you want to narrow the attack vector as much as possible. Then, to limit that even further, what we recommend is that you map your SIM cards to chargers for quick deactivation and response. What does this mean? It means that even if you do have an APN, I can walk up to your charger. As Shachar said, I can open the door, locate the SIM, put the SIM in my laptop or in my modem, and potentially I'm now on your network, okay? Which means I can make a hell of a lot of damage. If that would be tied to a charger, then at least charger ID, then at least the CPMS can block some of the communication. It can identify the change. There's a lot of added value in doing this mapping and being able to, again, narrow the options for the hackers. Another very important set of considerations is your overall equipment, okay? This is actually from our experience, that's the #1 problem for local sites to be hacked. I'm not talking about major hacks, but local sites. You get a router, you get a modem, you don't bother to change their default passwords, or you make it a really stupid password, and then hackers just go around the city, find your network, get on it, and now that's it. They have access to the charger, they can modify things, they can block things, they can man-in-the-middle attacks, all sorts of things. And then because some of the older chargers don't even use encryption, they can even change some of the data, okay, which goes back to regulations, and now you're in breach of regulations. So it's a big mess. You want to make sure all your devices around the network are secure to a good level. Penetration test would be a great idea, but you can also have procedures for this. Make sure you change defaults, make sure you rotate passwords, make sure you're aware of all this equipment, okay? Some people are not even aware of those. Okay, moving on, a very important factor, if you go back to the previous example that I gave, where I can just take the SIM out of the charger and start playing around on the network, is to limit SIM to SIM communication, which means that even if I do that and I do put it in my laptop, your APN provider, your cellular provider, is preventing me from talking to other devices on the network, which means I can't attack other chargers just from this charger that I hacked now. I can only run requests to the CPMS server, okay? So again, you want to limit as much as possible. You want to ask your CPMS provider which URL is necessary. You want to have the SIM provider limit the network requests to only that endpoint, or the minimum set of protocols and ports. And then you know that if somebody compromises a certain connection, they can't go everywhere, okay? Another aspect to improve that, and again, it takes a little bit more setup, is to have static IPs assigned to the chargers, and then link those IPs, if your CPMS supports it, as we do, link those IPs to the charger IDs. And this way you can look for violations, whereas if all of a sudden the IP changes or the ID on the IP changes, you know that somebody is fiddling around, and the CPMS should just disconnect this charger automatically. So these are all fraud prevention methods that you can take. Okay, another topic, as we said, and I posted the link to the white paper for those that are not familiar with it. After OCPP 1.6 was released, There were additional security profiles released, and of course, they are also part of OCPP 2.0. We were amongst the first to support it. And basically what this says, it says that by default, the communication from the charger to the CPMS is not necessarily encrypted. So first of all, you should use an encrypted channel. Okay, you should use an encrypted channel with a good level of encryption. This means TLS. Today it means 1.3 and above. And this assures that, again, nobody can come in between of the communication and alter. For example, if they can, they would alter the CDRs so that all charge transactions, even if they charged 10 kilowatts, they it'll report as 0, so you will not build them correctly, or they can fiddle around with other information. Luckily, there is no PII sent between charger and CPMS, but still, nobody wants to lose money. There are the advanced profiles allow you to set passwords on the chargers, which is also important. Should be rotated. You shouldn't use the same password across the board, or at least you should have some variation. The best way, it requires the most work, but it is recommended, is to use client-side certificates for the chargers, which means you will install a certificate on each of the chargers, and you will actually verify the charger identity every time the charger tries to talk to you. So in order to mimic that, the hacker needs to really get on the charger and steal the certificate somehow by hacking the charger. That's more complicated to do. Okay. And what we would recommend, because not all networks are going to implement certificates, is that if you're unable or unwilling to do that, invest the time, then at least use a unique password per charger. And of course, please don't use the charger ID as the password. And then basically all these things are aimed to strengthen the network against all sorts of unauthorized access. You can talk to your cellular provider to see if they have additional measures. For example, you should block access to the internet from within the network if it's not necessary. And again, if you link it only to us, for example, or to your CPMS of choice, then you don't need all the other communication. That's very important, because otherwise the attack vector becomes really, really wide. Okay, so to summarize on that and look at the overall picture from the CPMS standpoint, you want to make sure your CPMS platform is compliant with all sorts of the relevant standards, from all the ISOs to being compliant with PCI DSS for your customer information, GDPR and all the other regulations the Shacha was mentioning, the right TLS level, the right level of encryption of all data. So of course the database of the system needs to also be encrypted, using MFA, making sure everybody has their minimum role when accessing things. So this is overall important and compliance of the platform. Infrastructure, the platform's infrastructure, the CPMS infrastructure needs to be secured, so that, it's one thing to hack a charger, it's another thing to hack the whole system, as you saw from this North American incident where they stole, I think, their entire client database, which is a very bad thing. And the architecture for the system needs to also be secured. This means that, you can't access all the backend servers. You need to have a certain set of devices preventing you from doing what you want. This also goes to, there's also additional attacks like credit card attacks and all sorts of things that we don't have time for today. So you want to make sure the architecture is secured. Again, as I said, please consider using the advanced security profiles. They will up your security level by a few notches, which is very good. And last but completely not least, as Shacha was mentioning, is to make sure that the CPMS is aware of this, and the CPMS behavior monitors for fraud, monitors weird consumption, multiple usages. If a charger all of a sudden starts sending thousands of messages, it's probably been fiddled with. Protocol violations. There's a whole set of things that we monitor for, and we automatically alert the operators for, and we can automatically shut down chargers until they return, are checked, and when they behave again, they can be put back into service. So this is very important for the CPMS to assist making your life easier. So last slide again, please start thinking about security as something that you have to deal with. And you know, it's not just a pain, it's a real pain if you don't deal with it. Security profiles are your friend. You can read the white papers, or if you have questions, you can reach out, of course, and we can assist with implementing those. Awareness. Not only be aware, but also take action. This means that somebody in your NOC, in your operations center, needs to be able to understand and have some playbook of what do they do if they suspect certain things. You know, and to tell them you should shut down the charger, you should call the CPMS guys, you should get, so also whatever, just be aware of it and plan for it. And last but not least, make sure that your CPMS can help you and can monitor for you, alert for you, and basically make this security thing painless and much easier for you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Rami?
That's great. Thanks, Yossi. So we had everything from, you know, comply with industry regulations to securing your infrastructure, your architecture, your security profiles, and basically, like you said, the most important thing is just be aware that you need to address these issues. We have a couple of questions still. A lot of the questions have been answered already in the chat window. Maybe there's one question that either you or Shachar want to take, asking if we provide security reports based on what we monitor from a security standpoint.
Yeah, so of course we can, you know, discuss and understand what.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yossi, you froze for a moment, and Shachar started to answer.
Yeah. Sorry, I have some web problems. I was just saying that we can provide these reports. They're not, you know, again, it depends on which role of operators we work with. We need to be in touch. Typically, our customers appoint somebody as their security trustee, and then we work with them on these things. And of course, we have our on-call, our agents that are 24/7 know who to go to if an event occurs. Anything from a lot of offline chargers to a lot of chargers going crazy, or all sorts of things. So yes.
Okay, there's another question here about role-based access control. So the question is that is role-based access control centralized or decentralized? I guess meaning, does the charge point management system, the backend, support this?
Yeah, so RBUC is of course built into the platform. You can make sure that only the right set of people are able to administer chargers or to alter their configuration, as opposed to just run the basic commands such as reset and things like that. You can also pre-filter on the fields that are important for security. Security is actually, it's packaged in another section of some of our pages. So yeah, it's built across the board. Sure.
Super. So I think that covers it. So that just leaves me to thank everybody for this great turnout, and thank our eminent presenters, Yossi and Shachar. I think that was a great webinar. It was great to see you here, and it was great to host all this great audience with us here today. And we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Take care, everyone, and thank you. Oh, and one last note, this webinar is being recorded and will be available within the next day or two. You should all get notifications in your email about it. Thank you, and see you next time.